Yo, what up, Knicks Nation? Welcome back. And look, man, while still the off season, hey, we're gonna talk a little bit of Jets today. You know I'm a Jets guy. We got CP and JD who are Giants guys, but I gotta bring out my guy Jake Asman, aka the Ass Man. You know what I mean? If you like Seinfeld, you understand the reference. You understand the license plate by Kramer. Okay, he's here in the building. We're gonna talk some New York Knicks. We're gonna talk some New York Jets. So make sure to stay locked in. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And let's get locked in and let's get ready for this. Jake, my man, how you feeling, bro? How you doing today?
Alex, great to be on with you. A couple Jet fans talking things over before the season. We love our Knicks, and shout out to CP and everyone over at KnicksFanTV. I had a great talk with CP the other day on the phone. We got some big things cooking, so stick around, stay tuned for that this season. But I'm doing well, man. I'm trying to be as excited as one can be for a Jet season with not a whole lot of expectations compared to where we've been the last few years, but I think the Knick fans and all of us can kind of understand that sometimes if you have that surprise season that comes out of nowhere, those are the most fun seasons. So the expectations are low for the Jets, but at one point in time they were low for the Knicks too, and they figured it out. So I think the Jets are hoping that the new head coach in Aaron Glenn, the new GM in Darren Muji is similar to what we saw when you had Tom Thibodeau come in with Leon Rose. That you have the right people in place, the owner stays out of the way, and you could resurrect your franchise. I've used the Knicks comparison for the Jets all the time because people hate Woody Johnson. He's the worst owner. I mean, these were things 5 years ago we said about Dolan, and now look. So that's kind of my Knick Jet spin when I'm trying to go into the year with telling myself that you got to just hope they hire the right people, and time will tell.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It comes down to hiring the right people. Maybe staying away from Madden. Boy, don't go to the Madden ratings.
That's
All right,
right.
don't talk to your son about those things. But as to what you said, Jake, like I like it when the Jets don't have expectations because it seems like every time they do have expectations, it just comes crashing and burning down. So I like it at this place. I like it at this place. But we'll talk about that at the second half of the show. Let's get into the first half, which is our New York Knicks, man. All right, last year phenomenal season. Although, as someone who covers it on an everyday basis, it was a grind to get to the postseason. Just watching, it just felt like it was like grinding gears. It was like going through the sludge because what started off as a prolific offense for the first quarter of the season, once January comes around, offense became stagnant. You could just see that guys were just like getting tired, getting hurt, right? Get to the postseason. And for a team that's stacked with, especially in the top five, right, with our starting five for how talented they are, they did a phenomenal job with just making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, the wheels fell off at the end. Too tired for a Pacers team that plays at a high pace, no pun intended. But we had some changes, man. And as someone who watches the team, I was ready for some changes, whether it came to the head coach and just how you add to the bench. What do you think, man? The way that last year ended and the changes that have now come forth, especially starting off with Tom Thibodeau being fired.
It was a crazy season. I mean, there were a lot of twists and turns. No one gave them a chance, in that Celtic series going in. And I'm jealous I didn't get a chance to rub it in all these Celtic fan faces in your neck of the woods. Because God, do I despise every single, New England area sports fan. But look, it was a crazy season. I think ultimately you can't sit here and say you're disappointed when you think back on it because they did something that hadn't been done in 25 years. For me, that was the best Knicks season of my lifetime. I was alive in 2001, the last time they were in the conference finals, but I don't remember it. I don't have memories of being a part of it. I just think when you now look at what they did, the Knicks have now kind of entered into the Yankee territory where the
Mm.
season doesn't really matter. It's all about the playoffs. Like we're going to talk about the regular season. We're going to be watching every game. You and CP and the entire team are going to break down all the games and do post game shows, but everything is going to be about what can the Knicks now do to be in the best position to go on a deep run? And a deep run, anything short of getting to the finals, I think, especially with looking at the state of the Eastern Conference, it's going to feel disappointing. So I understand the criticisms of Tom Thibodeau. I felt like he deserved one more year with this group. The cat trade happened on the eve of training camp. I just felt like there should have been one more year of Thibodeau. I understand the knocks on him, but I was a Thibs guy. That said, I'm not anti Mike Brown. I understand why he was the guy they hired. I'm glad they hired him over someone that didn't have any, previous head coaching experience. Because I think
Mm.
in New York with the expectations, like you're asking for it if you don't have, the right people that understand what this media market is and what being the coach of the Knicks is and what that entails. So I'm trying to be positive. I think they're a really good team. I like the moves that Leon made to improve the bench in the offseason. It's going to come down to one, health. They got to get some injury luck. That's a big part of it. Look at the conference right now and what's happened with some of the contending teams. And they got to gel, and they got to gel over the course of the year. And hopefully, Mike Brown is the right guy to maximize some of the talent that is on this team. They're not going to be a great defensive team. They don't have to be. They have elite offensive talent, and I think Mike Brown's goal is to basically get more out of it, especially a guy like Mikal Bridges, who ultimately they chose to extend long term, which I understood that one and thought that was the right move too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you made all those trades for Mikal Bridges. You can't let him walk or even get him close to a position where he can walk and go to another team because if you're giving up that much draft capital, you got to say, hey, I'm investing in this guy, right? So the dollar amount, even though I see it as a slight overpay, and look, what athlete isn't slightly overpaid in this day and age? I understood the move, but sticking with the Knicks expectations this upcoming year. And it's interesting that you used our New York Yankees in this, man. It's interesting that you said, hey, now it's about can you go win titles? Even though the Knicks haven't made it over the hump of the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm saying winning one to make it to the finals. Is that the expectation that you're having for this team this upcoming year?
Look, if they got back to the conference finals and lost, it'd be tough to say it's a failure because look where the Knicks have been. But they put themselves in the spot by making the move to get rid of Tom Thibodeau. Like they've said, hey, we think we've gone all we could go with this guy. To get further, we need someone else. If they don't get further, the fan reaction from this passionate fan base, we know how that's going to be. So I think it is fair to expect this team to take another step. It's another year of this core. They brought them all back. They could have broke it up. They could have made different moves. They kept the core of the team intact. They changed the coach. They're essentially saying the coach is holding us back and we needed a new voice. I think it's fair to expect this team to take another step and at least get to the finals. I can't say you got to win the championship because
Hmm.
OKC or whoever might end up being better, but how are the Knicks not the best team in the East or tied with the Cavs as the best team in the East? The betting odds tell you they are. I don't think you look at Indiana without Halliburton, without Turner, they're the same team. I don't think
Right.
you can sit here and say Boston is the same team. We know Tatum out for the year is going to be basically a gap year now for Boston. Plus, they blew it up with the salary cap situation they were dealing with. So you go down the line, there's some good teams in the East, maybe some young teams that could take another step. Detroit, Orlando, fine. Milwaukee right now still has the best player maybe in the conference and Giannis. I get all that, but to me, it's the Knicks and then the Cavs, and I don't trust the Cavs. The Cavs have proven nothing. So I look at the Knicks as the best team in the East, barring injury. If they're not in the NBA Finals, I think it's fair as a Knicks fan, as crazy as it is to say, to be disappointed because that's kind of how they're positioned now going into the season.
And like I don't disagree with you to that point where it's like, look, it's we got to make it to the finals. We at least to me, you at least got to make it a competitive Eastern Conference Finals, right? I mean, we could say, hey, you got to do this, do that, but like at the end of the day, we got to watch how the story is unfolded, right? Is it like did you lose somebody in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? As you mentioned, health is going to play a big part to it, but how is each and every single game going in that Eastern Conference Finals? Is it coming down to like a magical shot as we saw against where Halliburton has one that hits the
I was
ceiling and
there.
drops, right?
Oh,
And yeah,
brutal,
like oh
brutal.
well, I'm sorry that we're even there, man. Like it was going all right, and then next thing you know,
The three worst sporting moments I've seen in person have all happened, by the way, within the last 2 years. I was at the Halliburton game. I was at Aaron Rodgers' Jets debut in 2023 against the Bills, and I was
oof,
at Game 5 of the World Series where the Yankees blew the 5-0 lead and forgot
oh,
how to play baseball. I mean, though, literally, the three worst moments I've seen from my teams, I saw them in person. It was just horrific. But yeah, I they
do we have
definitely.
to keep you away, Jake? Is this what
I'm
we're?
the
Is that what
problem.
you're telling me?
I guess I'm the problem. I don't know, man. It's been tough, but to your point, Alex, 100%. Like obviously, if you get to the conference finals and you lose in seven, or there's a crazy injury that happens that affects it, there's going to be some nuance in that discussion. But from the outside looking in ahead of the season, right? If they don't get to the NBA finals, and assuming for the most part they're healthy, it's a huge disappointment. Which once again is crazy given how bad the Knicks have been for most of our lives, and it's only this recent run where the Knicks are championship contenders, but. I mean, windows close quick in the NBA, and who knows what's going to happen with the Knicks' future. So take advantage. Like this is your moment right now. The East is down. You have the team that should have more chemistry. You have another year of this group playing together. I think they got the superstar that could be the best player on a championship team in Jalen Brunson. Now's the time. They got to go out there and get it done.
They got to go out there and get it done. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another Knicks Fan TV KFTV show. We got my guy Jake Asman on the other side. You can go find him over at the Jake Asman Show. He covers our beloved team, the New York Jets. All right. He's also a big Knicks fan, big Yankees fan. You can also watch him over on or listen to him. I don't know if you can watch him yet, but listen to him on
I'm trying to
ESPN
get them
Radio.
to, yeah, I want ESPN New York to start, posting, the live shows on YouTube, but we're not there yet. But there are clips available, so you can kind of watch, you can listen, you can download the ESPN New York app if you want to tune in that way.
There you go. So go make sure to tune into Jake over there, covering all New York sports
For the home
over
of the
at
Knicks,
ESPN.
baby. That's why I get to go to all the Knicks games. Thank God, because I can't afford Knicks tickets because they cost you an arm and a leg to go to like a regular season game. By the way, that's the only maybe downside of the Knicks being this good.
Yeah,
Knicks tickets are always expensive, even when they stunk because the Garden is such a big tourist
right.
attraction. But man, you want to watch like the Sacramento Kings on a Tuesday night in January. It's still going to cost you a couple $100 just to get in and sit all the way up top. Like it's crazy how much Knicks tickets are now going for.
If I told you how much I actually had to spend to go to game one of Knicks Celtics in the postseason, your jaw would drop because you'd say, wait, that is way cheaper. That's half the price of sitting in the same spot in the loge area, like in Madison Square Garden in the bowl. And you're like, what? It's just crazy, man.
I
But
had
hey,
finals tickets, Alex. You want to hear this? So I did a group buy with my listeners on YouTube. We did like an Asmaniac, Knicks outing
mm,
in March. So I had 30 tickets I bought through the Knicks. That made me a partial Knicks season ticket holder. So I got priority access each round to buy like face value tickets for one of the playoff games. So I bought game one. It would have been game three of the NBA Finals for the Knicks, lower bowl, section 110, $2,200 each. Each. Insane. And I had to put the money up front, and it was just sitting with the Knicks. And then once they got eliminated, it got refunded a week later. But crazy. And I was going to resell it because I was like, as much as I would love to go with someone, if I can go as a media member, I'll save the money and try and sell it to someone else and, profit. But I mean,
cover
it's
your rent.
that's it. That's it. I had to do it.
Literally cover your rent. That's crazy. But make sure to tune into Jake, man, on his show. He does a phenomenal job covering all New York Jets and all New York sports on ESPN New York. All right, man, let's get back into this. So Mike Brown's now the head coach, right? He's coming in. He's taking over for Tom Thibodeau. As you talked about, look, you want a little bit more of an innovative offensive mind. And look, we got to see that out in Sacramento. I mean, they had a prolific year one under Mike Brown for what they did. I talked to my guy James Ham, who covers the Sacramento Kings on the regulars, been doing it for 10 to 15 years, and he's never seen anything like that. And to have 6 to 7 different players who weren't part of that team the year before for a full season join and be that prolific, it gives me confidence coming into this year that he could potentially do something with the New York Knicks. But my thing is, like, how long does he have to get this team to that next level? He signed a 4-year contract for $40 million. Is he going to get the full 4 years? What do you think, Jake?
Well, I think he's got to get to the NBA Finals within the first two. I mean, and also in today's NBA, I mean, you see coaches get fired all the time, and we know James Dolan's not afraid to write a check for someone to not work for him. He does it a ton in his history. I don't think it's going to be like they get off to a bad start and Mike Brown's on the hot seat. Like once they made the move to move away from Tom Thibodeau, you're giving Mike Brown every opportunity to be the guy for certainly longer than at least a year. I mean, barring them getting, knocked out in round one or, they're not going to miss the playoffs in today's NBA, but, something catastrophic like that. I think he's going to get definitely this year, regardless of result. And then I think in year two, if they don't get to the finals, there's going to be a real conversation of do we need to make another coaching change? And that's kind of when the conversation would start. So I think he's going to get at least 2 years no matter what. More likely than not, he'll probably get a third year, but they got to win. They got to at least get to an NBA Finals, I would say, within the first two for him to definitely be here for a year three.
So what are you looking from him in year one? Is there anything like for me in year one, I'm looking for him to like really activate Mikal Bridges. Like we brought this guy in here to be the third option for the New York Knicks, right? It was going to be a Brunson Cat show. And what we got to start off with was a prolific pick and roll. Team started to figure out how to guard that, put the three, a wing on Cat, make him think twice. Does he want to drive? Does he want to shoot? And it impacted how the Knicks offense was productive during the regular season and even in the postseason. And I think a weak spot that Thibs didn't utilize for Bridges was running him with that second unit, treating him like an RJ Barrett, and just, letting him have like the green white and just go be that effective scorer that we saw out in Brooklyn. Now, what some people say is that what he did out in Brooklyn, that's he's not going to have that same type of production because it was a lot of volume that had, right? A high usage. He's not going to get that. Are you looking at for Mike Brown to get Mikal Bridges? Like, what is your big expectation for Mike Brown to get this team right?
I think you nailed it. I was going to go with the Bridges conversation as well. I mean, I was at the game where Bridges scored 41 against Wembanyama on Christmas. Like, it's there for Mikal. We've seen it. I mean, he hit big shots for the Knicks in the playoffs. He obviously, really took on more of an offensive role when Brunson was hurt in the second half of the season down the stretch. Hit the big shot against Portland in the regular season. Like, Bridges is a much better offensive player than we saw for a lot of last year. And Mike Brown's supposed to be an offensive guy, right? He's supposed to be someone that could probably take what Mikal Bridges does well and better feature him and not just make him a guy that's kind of just standing around, waiting for the action to find him in the corner, right? I think there's more to his game. And I think that's why, the Knicks paid Mikal what they paid him. I think they know that. And we could call it an overpay, but if Bridges is close to what he's been at times in his career, it's not an overpay. It's, a typical NBA contract for a guy who does a lot of things that help you win in the playoffs. A lot of the defensive performances we saw in that Celtics series, as
Oh my
everyone
God,
knows.
I was there for that game one, man.
So
And when he stole that, I was like, yo, I was
unreal.
jumping. Yo, Celtics fans were upset. For anyone who hasn't seen, just go to my IG, man. Go to my IG and go see what I was doing to Celtics fan on the way out. I
Hell
was
yeah.
teasing, teasing. Actually, that might be an understatement, but yes, I was loving that. But absolutely, I agree with that.
I think that's the key, though, right? I think they want to get more from Bridges. I think they want to obviously look. I understand. Teams didn't play the bench a lot. I think sometimes it's a little overblown, but there is something to the fact that the Knicks have a short rotation. The minutes played is at times I think an issue. I think sometimes we conveniently pick and choose when we want to blame Thibs for the minutes, and so
Mm.
other times like no one says anything when they're like the healthiest team in the NBA going into the playoffs. The minutes are only a problem, and the second round when they actually lose a devastating game in game. You know what I mean? Like whatever. I don't want to revisit the whole Thibs narrative. They moved on, but I think part of his role though, Mike Brown now, is to play more guys off the bench and see if you have something in a guy like Tyler Kolek who could be maybe your long term backup to Jalen Brunson at the point guard spot. I think you're trying to find more guys. Can you get something out of your recent draft picks? They don't have a ton of guys, but like, can they get something out of Dadier? Is that possible? Like,
Mm.
is Huck Porty going to be able to give you something? Like, I think they do want to see if they maybe have more off the bench than we realize because Tibbs didn't play a lot of those guys. So I think that's big for what Mike Brown's trying to do in the regular season. I think in the playoffs, it's all about play your best. You got to win. But I think the Knicks are going to use the regular season more as a tune up to get ready for important playoff games, whereas Tibbs was always, we got to win now. We could be up 25 in the fourth, and he's leaving the guys out there, which that's dumb. That I disagree with. But I think the mentality will shift a little bit from the Knicks trying to like dominate the regular season to we know we're a really good team. Let's play a bunch of lineups to figure out what works so we're ready to go come playoff time.
Absolutely. And I agree with you on that. I spoke to CP about it too. And I think for me as a fan for this upcoming season, that's going to be the biggest shift is not the win total, right? Because what we do as fans is that we dissect every single game, like what's going on to this, what's going to happen to this, how come this guy didn't play, how come that guy didn't play, why are we running these plays, how come we're not getting this guy more involved, right? And I think to a degree we can have those discussions because as you mentioned the bigger picture is, are we doing the fine tune up for the postseason to get these guys ready to perform at their highest level? But the in the micro, why do we need to dissect every single game? It's not going to be all life or death. Let's see what the final. Let's see what how everyone's performing and what their role is supposed to be as the season progresses. That's why I just need to see because at the end of the day, as you nailed it. It's the Knicks and the Cavs. The Cavs could potentially go win more games. I don't really care about that. I think the Knicks will be the better team, even if they face the Cavs. I think they got the talent. I think they got just like the clutch ability from what we've seen, especially with Jalen Brunson, right? Even Cat hit some big shots too. Bridges made some spectacular moments, as you pointed out. So I'm not worried about that. But how is they getting ready for that postseason run? And so I guess with that, is there any young guy that you're looking for? Because I feel like to get to that point, right? That means you have to go to the bench. And if Tibbs is not playing young guys, and look, we didn't have a Yabusele, we didn't have a Clarkson last year to really go to. Like, you look at that bench, like, I'm sorry, Campaign was not that guy. All right. So, like, and it was frustrating to watch
Don't
him
tell
on the night.
campaign that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he had the ultimate green
Campaign
light,
thinks
which,
he's the guy. I was
yeah,
the problem with campaign.
how did he have the ultimate green light and not Bridges is what always, baffles me. But, like, now we got Kolek. We get Kolek in year two. We got Porty in year two. We got Dottie in year two. Are you looking at any of those guys to make like a big mark? Because as of right now, if we go through the nine, we know who the starting five. Well, I would say we know who the starting five is, but we know who the big five are, right? We know we got Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, Cat. You got Mitchell Robinson. You got Deuce McBride, Clarkson, Yabusele. There's nine right there. There's one more spot. Now the Knicks can go out and go get that vet minimum and go fill that 10th role, or they can look at a guy that they already have on this team and say, hey, why don't we insert one of these guys, work them throughout the rotation throughout the regular season, and let's see who, rises to the top. Is that what you're looking for this year? Or are you going to go with the vet minimum route?
Yeah, I think they're going to try and give the guys they have on this team an opportunity before they would go down the vet minimum path because you always could find those guys in season. Like, and the Knicks have been able to stay, under the second apron to this point to be able to have, some additional flexibility if they do want to do something like that. I think there's more to some of these guys that you mentioned. I think Tyler Kolek could be a player in this league. I don't know if
Is
he's
he
ever
your
gonna.
guy? Is he the guy that you're looking at this year?
I think he could play. I watched him a little bit in college. I think when he did play a little bit last year, he showed you something. I like his mentality. I think he is someone that even when he played in a limited sample size last year, like to me, there's something there with his game. I'd like to see more of it. I think there's another level to a guy like Deuce McBride's game. I think he has an
Hmm.
opportunity to become a better player and take a step forward in his career this year. And look, he's not a younger player, but I think people are like minimizing how big of a deal it is to get Jordan Clarkson on this team. Like he's exactly what they needed. There are six players in the history of the NBA that have scored more points off the bench than Jordan Clarkson. He's seventh all time in bench points. Like they're not asking him to be the guy. He's not gonna have the volume he had on a bad Jazz team when he's just kind of just riding it out. Like that was a great move by the Knicks. That was a move that you bring in a guy who's way better than what you're paying him for because he got bought out. And I think he's going to be huge. And look, injuries, they're going to happen. So if Mitchell Robinson has his annual injury, can you get something from one of these backup bigs that have sat on the bench, and have done nothing? Like, can they develop, one of these guys that can, you know, could Dottie turn into something? Can he, or Huck Porty? I mean, can he give you some minutes? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to think that maybe they can. Like no one saw Deuce McBride popping off the way he did. Like, there's some examples of that. The Knicks. Isaiah Hartenstein was a nobody when he signed with the Knicks, and then he became like a tremendous player. They got a huge contract. So I
And a
don't know
champion.
right, and a champion. That's right. So I'm not trying to say that any of those guys are going to be as good as those players I mentioned, but you gotta find out, and you have the opportunity now in the regular season where you give those guys the reps to figure some things out and see if you have something, and then by the time you get to the playoffs, we know who's going to play. The best players are going to play, and you're trying to win every game. But I think we're going to see a different approach from Mike Brown compared to what we saw with Thibodeau for how that regular season's managed to see if they can find some of those guys that you were referencing.
Yo, what's good, Knicks Nation? This show is brought to you by our sponsor, DraftKings. And let me tell you, game on. All right. Week one starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football, it's first touchdown fireworks, anytime TD rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. And look, we got week one of the NFL. It's prime time to be starting to go into on your DraftKings app, put some money down on the games. All right. One that sticks out to me that's pretty interesting is the 2.5, Lions as underdogs going against the Green Bay Packers this weekend. That's something that's interesting to me. You got the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens also facing off 1.5 plus 1.5 for the Buffalo Bills. That's another one that's intriguing to me. And so you got all these lines. NFL is back. The fun's ready to go. So for new customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use that code KFTV. That's code KFTV to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So don't miss out. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 888-467-3669. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, located in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer. Make sure to go sign up right now. The crown is yours. Brought to you by DraftKings. Now, to me, I look, it's going to come down to can Kolek play. And I look, I was out there in summer league with the crew, and whew, if you go by summer league, man, it was a little underwhelming what Tyler Kolek was doing. But I'm open to seeing what he can do during a regular NBA season. I get that summer league's a little different. For me personally, I'd like to see him dominate since you've already had like a full NBA, training camp progress. But hey, we'll see what happens. But for me, like I'm looking for a point guard at this point. He has to be that answer just because he's the only natural point guard outside of Brunson that we have on this team, right? So if anybody for me as a young guy has to show up, has to be him because earlier on I was saying we need another wing. Point guard seems to be fine with Kolek right there, but for me, he's gonna have to step up, man, and that's gonna be a big thing. He's gonna that position is going to be the one I'm like honing in on because as of right now, if it's not Kolek, you got a by committee point guard position between Deuce McBride and Jordan Clarkson just to keep that second unit rolling, and even some Mikal Bridges, man. So I'm just curious how that all unfolds.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Alex. And I think ultimately, like sometimes opportunities for these guys they happen when guys get hurt. So you're not rooting for injuries, but you're hoping that you have better depth. So if there are some injuries here, you don't feel like you're automatically screwed. That the sum of the entire team can make up for losing a star. And I think we saw that with Brunson, right? Like, all of a sudden, Mikal Bridges had to shoulder more of the offensive load. He was ready to do it. Like I
Yeah.
think I think there's something to that, and I think it's on Mike Brown to really get this team ready to go for a deep playoff run.
For sure. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning for another KFTV Jake Asman collab, man. All right. We're before we get into this, I gotta ask Jake one more question, which is what's your record outlook for this team? And then we're going to talk about some Jets.
Ooh. It's funny because they've won 50 plus games back to back years, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, cool. Like it doesn't matter. I think they're a 50 plus win team again, though. I don't know if they're going to win 60 games because I don't think they're going to treat, as we've been talking about, the regular season the same way. I think the Knicks are probably like a 55 plus win team. I think they're in that. I don't know. Do you have their win total in Vegas right now or any of the sports books? Like, I don't know if they've come out yet, but I think this Knicks team is probably going to win 55, 56 games. Some might say that's too low, but once again, I don't think we're going to see the same level of aggressiveness that previous Knicks teams coached by Thibs are going to have. I think 55 would be a great number for a team that was coming off its first back-to-back 50-win season since Pat Riley was the head coach.
So as of right now, for what it says for some of the big ones, I'm seeing 53 and a half for. I'm not going to give them because they're not sponsored the show, but 53 and a half is the line right now for the amount of wins they have the Knicks winning this season, which I think it's good. I think the Knicks can get over that. I let's make this a little bit more interesting. Do you think the Knicks could fall into 60 wins based on the strength of the Eastern Conference at this point?
I'd be surprised because I think even with the East being down, I just think the NBA schedule it makes it hard to win that many games. You got back to backs, you got 3 and 4 nights, you got travel.
Hmm.
The Knicks, the Knicks. I don't want to say they're going to rest on their laurels, but I think it's natural to be like, we know we're really good. Like that's the one thing with Tibbs. Like Tibbs was always going to get the most out of the team in the regular season. I don't think it's going to be the same level of intensity with Mike Brown now.
All right, there you go. So you got them for win over 50 wins. You want to give a number on it? You want to give a what's your hard stance?
I'll go 55 wins for the Knicks. They'll win one more than the previous best regular season I saw, which was the Mellow 2013 Knicks tape year.
Okay. I'm gonna go with 54. That's why I've been thinking. I think we get 54 wins this year, just because to your point, we're good. We're not trying to prove anything right now. We're good. Let's prove our worth in the postseason. All
Win a
right, so there we go.
championship. That's when we prove ourselves.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
exactly. Exactly. All right, Jake. Let's get into I've been dying to talk to you about this, man. It's been hard for me to like really garner like my expectations for this year for the New York Jets, man. But you're tapped in, you do a segment with Mike Tannenbaum on the show.
Do a
You're
full
getting
show
the
with him,
inside.
man. I got 3 hours with Mike Tannenbaum starting Sunday.
Look at that. You get to talk to the guy himself who built, I mean, the last time we were in the postseason,
I
man,
know.
with the
Sad.
Sanchez.
He's the
So
last Jets GM to have a winning record too. It's crazy.
crazy to even, that's a crazy thought to say out loud to even hear that. But where are you? Let's start off, man. What's your expectation for this team this year? Like, where should Jets fans feel? Because I know, like, look, when you talk to the Jets fan base, there's guys who are like every year, this is our year. Then there's other guys who are like, I don't give a damn, man. Like, it's the Jets, right? Where do you fall?
I think this team is not going to be as bad as some think. I also don't think they're going to be a playoff team either. I think this team is probably looking at a 6 or 7 win season, and that
Mm,
is more so just based on the fact there are too many unknowns. There is a lot of talent still on this team. They have a legitimate first team all pro player at all three levels of their defense. They have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They obviously have an offensive line that, even with the brutal news of losing Elijah Vera Tucker, you still have a very good, at least on paper, offensive line. And look, Fields might be limited as a passer, but he's a dynamic runner. You could build an offense around that. It will come down to coaching. We don't know what Aaron Glenn is yet. We don't know what Tanner Engstrand, who's the new offensive coordinator, is yet. I think he's the biggest key besides Fields. And look, Fields is on his third team in 3 years. Like, this is really like his last chance to prove like he's the guy. Is he going to have this career renaissance like Sam Darnold just did last year, or Baker Mayfield's done now the last 2 years? Even Geno Smith has proven to be, a viable starting quarterback in this league. So, like, if Fields can have one of those type of years, this team can absolutely, fight for a playoff spot, be better than we think. Like, Giants fans, 2 years ago, Daniel Jones accidentally went 9-7-1 and they won a playoff game. Like, it's only the Jets who stay this bad for as long as they've been. Like, by accident, you have like a 9-win season here or there, right? So the Jet fan and the Jet organization, they're due. It's just a lot of questions, man. I think there's talent. I think if they 100% nailed it with the coach, they'll be better than 6 wins. They'll be closer to 8, maybe even 9. If Fields is legit, the coaching's legit, then yeah, they can be a team that's maybe fighting for one of those wild card spots. But tough start to the year with the schedule. I think this game Sunday against Rodgers is so important for them
oh
to try
yeah.
and get, because if you lose that one, you got Buffalo coming into your building in week 2. Then you have Tampa, a playoff team a year ago, on the road in week 3. Miami, a division rival, on the road in week 4. It could start the snowball. So I think it's important for the Jets to get at least one of these 2 games at home here. And it feels like Sunday is more winnable than week 2 against Buffalo. So I have low expectations, but I'm hoping that, they surprise us and give us that fun year, because we're dying for it as Jet fans who just want to see our team not be, eliminated by Columbus Day, and we're doing mock drafts in
Thank you.
October. Like, it's enough.
Thank you. And that's actually all I'm asking for. Can you even be just competitive going into December? All right. Just get past October. I need competitive
In
football
the
to the
hunt,
end.
the in
Yeah.
the hunt
Yo,
graphic,
yes, I
we get
love the
in
in
the
the hunt
hunt.
graphic. Just give
Yeah.
me that. Give me that. All right. If you make it, that's awesome. I'm not really expecting much, but hey, just give me that. And so with that, how do you feel about Aaron Glenn? Because I'm seeing a lot of these clips. I heard the introductory speech that he gave. And I love this, mantra of accountability, although it feels like we have that same conversation every single year with accountability. And then we got to see how it all unfolds. Where are you on him as the head coach?
I like a lot of what he has done so far. I love how he handles the media. I love how he has seemingly got the team to, put aside what's happened the last couple of years and really buy into a new way of doing things. A physical training camp. They were running Oklahoma drills at Jets training camp this year. They were doing full tackling sessions, and good. He's trying to change that like country club mantra that it felt like kind of encapsulated, the Robert Saleh coach Jets. And he's trying to change the culture. It's an overused word, but there's a lot of Thibodeau in Aaron Glenn, to use like a
Hmm.
cross sport comparison, where it just feels like he's going to be a guy that's going to get the absolute most of the talent he has. The roster is certainly not perfect. There's major questions at quarterback. But if you remember, Thibs came in and took, a team led by Julius Randle and had Alfred Payton starting at point guard. They won 40 something games and made the playoffs. Like, I think he's got that old school mentality. He's a Parcells guy, but he's different than Parcells, and he's made that clear. I like a lot of what he has done. You want to root for him. He called the Jets his dream job. He played for them. He got his coaching career started with them as a scout. Like it's just if he can't figure it out, like who is? So like you want it to work. It's just it's tough, man. This is a tough job and it's a tough conference he's in. But I do think long term, if they give him some time, he's got a chance to turn it around. But he's got to get a quarterback if it's not Fields, and time will tell on that.
Quarterback makes or breaks anything for a head coach, as we've seen throughout the years, especially being the coach of the New York Jets. And look, for Aaron Glenn, I would say this, especially when I look at him as a defensive guy, I'm actually quite shocked that this organization, that them being the New York Jets, went back to back with defensive coaches because this is an organization that's like, all right, we win defense, let's go offense, and they go flip flopping back and forth. And I'm like, I'm a little, I know they didn't do that with Rex to Todd Bowles, but I'm like, all right, you guys are not buying into that whole, all right, this thought process didn't work. Let's go to the other side because we need this offense. It's like you're trusting it seems like they did the search for a guy who can be a head coach and not just worry about one side of the ball. Because that's what it felt like, right? With Salah, it felt like one side of the ball. With Rex Ryan, it was one side of the ball. Todd Bowles, one side of the ball. It's like we need a guy who could be a leader of the organization, not just on paper, just promotion, right? And it felt like that for a lot of the years. It feels like Glenn is a little different in the sense where he does seem like the guy who can command a room and is actually delegating and giving those guys those responsibilities, which I like. And obviously, as you point out, it comes down to how the offense is going to be productive. Can Justin Fields be that guy to lead the way? I'll tell you this: I was never big on the Zach Wilson draft pick. I like when I looked at his film, I was never like that big of a believer of a guy coming from BYU who didn't play a lot of top competition. Arm talent's there, but I just didn't see it as a guy ready. Out of all those guys, I did like Justin Fields in that draft class just because at OSU, I feel like all right, they run closer to a pro style offense. He's got the athleticism. I feel like if you're going to go for a guy who's young to be your quarterback and you're moving off from Sam Darnold, this could have been the choice. Now I get to see if the guy for my guy for that time period, I'm not saying he's the guy that I always wanted, will take advantage of this opportunity and lead the Jets. But what do you feel about Justin Fields, man? Do you like the deal that they got him to? Like, where do you stand on him?
Yeah, there's real upside with him, Alex. Look, chances are they're going to be looking to draft a quarterback in the first round next year, but you never know, right? We could have easily said that about the Bucks with Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. Obviously, got a chance last year once JJ McCarthy got hurt in the preseason and parlay that into a 14-win season, right? Like Fields, the chances he's the guy long term, let's say it's 15 or 20%, right? However you want to describe it, but that's 15 or 20% higher than any other option that was out there once they determined they were moving on from Aaron Rodgers. Like if you brought in Jameis Winston, it might be fun for a year, but you're not winning anything with him. And he's 34 years old. He's not your guy long term. Kirk Cousins, same thing. Carson Wentz, I might look like him a little bit, but that's not the guy that we want playing quarterback, right? Like there was no one else. At least with Fields, he's 26 years old. He was 4-2 last year. He's 8-4 in his last 12 starts. You could build an offense around his skill set. Like Jalen Hurts last night was not carving up the Dallas Cowboys. He made plays. He used his legs. You could build a similar offense. Now, you don't have Saquon Barkley. You don't have A.J. Brown. You don't have Devontae Smith, but you do have a good wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. You do have two really good running backs in Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Your offensive line's the best it's been in probably about a decade. You have a legit tight end, I think, in Mason Taylor, who they took in the second round out of LSU. Like you could build a functioning offense around that, and the defense has talent. The defense is going to be well coached by Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator. They have a real kicker. Thank God Nick Folk is back. How many games have the Jets lost, this past year because of Greg Zuerlein costing them? So if they are good situationally, they hit their kicks. If Fields takes care of the ball, I think he could be a competent quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I hope I'm wrong, but I think they could have a fun season with him if those variables are answered in a positive. It's a lot of ifs, though. I'm trying to
A
sell you on.
lot of ifs.
That's the thing. It's like how often do these things work out for the Jets? But we could have said that about the Knicks, and then Thibodeau showed up, and he was the right guy, turned things around. You're hoping Glenn is that type of coach for this team that could get the most out of the talent that is on the roster.
For sure. And look, the one thing I keep saying about Fields that I like is that he's at least a gamer. Like when you watch like Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately after the Achilles injury, like how much could you ask for this man to be mobile, right? Outside of his arm strength, like in today's NFL, you got to be able to run a little bit to gain those yards, as we saw with, as you mentioned, Hurts last night. You think about Josh Allen, you think about a lot of these quarterbacks, even like Lamar Jackson. A lot of these guys in this league, you got to be able to use your legs to just churn first downs. And the one thing I always say is that Zach Wilson didn't really do it like that often. At least with Fields, you feel like, all right, things are breaking down. He's at least going to be courageous enough to run the ball and try to get that first down. So I do like that aspect of his game. And to your point, it doesn't have to be the flashiest thing possible to win games, right? It's can you protect the ball? Can you move it? Can you just worry about getting first downs? You don't got to go for the big play all the time. Just get first downs because once you get a first down, yeah, you get another three more tries, man. Unless you want to go punt, you can go four. But hey, just keep the ball
And they're going to
moving.
run the ball. They're going to tush push. Right? The Jets were one of the teams that voted in favor of keeping it. Like they're going to run the hell out of the ball. It's going to be the most rushing attack we've seen as Jet fans since ground the pound with Rex Ryan. Right? Like that's what they want to be. And I think to a certain extent, Alex, you still can win games in the NFL that way. You probably can't beat the Bills or the Ravens in like a shootout when you go against those quarterbacks, but you can win games if you don't beat yourself. How many games did the Jets lose because they just were horrible situationally?
Ah, too many, man.
Penalties, beating themselves, the missed kicks. Like this team should have won way more than 5 games a year ago. A lot of that talent is still back. Like, sure, there's no Rodgers, no Devontae, but if they're well coached, I think there's a path for them to not be terrible. I don't think they're going to be picking, in the top three in the draft like some have prognosticated. I don't know if they're a 9-10 win team, but could they be a fun 7-10 if there is such a thing? Like, I don't think that's crazy if some of these things we're talking about actually go the Jets' way for once.
For sure. And the thing is that you mentioned about having like one of the best offensive lines, and if you want to have like a strong ground and pound attack, you do need a good offensive line. And I know you talked about it earlier today. Haven't tapped into the show yet because I was at the 9 to 5. All right, I got out a little bit early. Took my half day, but I'm going to tap in later today to go watch that show. But I just give me the cliff notes, man. AVT out. This man can't even stay healthy. It
Mm.
hurts me, man, because he's so talented. But every year, 2 years in Denver, he gets injured, right? Back to back years. Now he's dealing with a torn bicep. What's going on, man?
It's brutal, man. I'm not trying to minimize it. He's a really good player. He's having a great camp. I mean, you watch the Giant Jet preseason game, and when the Jets ran the ball, like AVT was like mowing guys down. If you go back and watch, the All 22 from it, he's a really, really good player. It's been the story of his career, though, right? This is now the third time in not even 5 seasons, right? Because the season hasn't started yet, where he's missing, most of the year. He played 5 games and then 6 games in 2022 and 2023. Last year, he actually played 15 of 17, and we're thinking, okay, put the injury behind him this year, and the Jets are going to give him a long-term deal and keep him here. But I think that's out the window now. It's a big blow. Look, I think in the short term, Joe Tippmann will slide over to right guard. He did that in the preseason when John Simpson, their left guard, was dealing with a back injury. So Simpson now stays at left guard. Tippmann slides over to right guard. And Josh Myers, who they signed from the Packers, who's been, a starting center in this league, was field center at Ohio State. So there's that familiarity there. He's going to be the Jets' new starting center. But you weaken your O line at two positions by doing that, but it's the best five you could put on the field. I don't think AVT going down like kills them immediately. I think what it does, though, Alex, the next time someone else gets hurt, all of a sudden you're now really tapping into your depth. And what are the odds that someone doesn't get hurt when you already lost AVT before the games have even been played?
Hmm.
What are the odds they're going to stay healthy now as a 17-game season is about to start? So that's the concern. Good coaching could overcome some of this. We'll find out if the Jets have that coaching because in the past, well, they've lost AVT and the season has basically spiraled. Like 2022, they were 6-3. They lose AVT in that Denver game and they completely collapsed. They ended up losing 6 straight games to end that season. So he's really good. I'm not trying to minimize it, but if a right guard is the reason why you go from a team that you think could be a scrappy 9-win team to a team that's going to win 6 games or less, like you weren't that good of a team to begin with. So they got to find a way to overcome it.
For sure. And do you think a guy like Garrett Wilson can help?
Yeah, I mean, look, Garrett's awesome. I get worried though about do they have anyone else that could open some things up? Like if they're going to double Garrett all the time, who else can win one-on-one to make the defense pay for that
Is it
decision?
Josh Reynolds? Is it Alan Lazard?
I don't think it. I don't think it's really anyone in that room. I think it's going to be the tight end Mason Taylor. I think they're going to
Mm,
use Breece Hall a lot as just a straight up wide receiver, like line him up in the slot, get a linebacker or a safety on him. He's going to be used, I think, like Christian McCaffrey. Like I think Breece Hall, if healthy, it's always the key with Breece. I think people are sleeping on him. He had a bad season for his standards last year. He played through injuries. But a year ago at this time, Breece Hall was going number one in some people's fantasy drafts. Like he was a top three pick. He had a bad year. I get it. I think he's super talented and they're going to find ways to utilize him properly. I think if he's healthy, he might be their second leading pass catcher behind Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Do you think the Jets, and one more question after this question, and I know you gotta get out of here. Do you think the Jets make an in-season move for another wide receiver? Because that wide receiver depth, man, it's just like you already talk about doubling Garrett. It's like if I'm looking at this roster, I'm like, I will dare Lazard and Reynolds to beat me.
Right. I think they could if they're in the mix. I don't know if there's an obvious we could get a guy right now. Maybe Jacoby Myers, but it doesn't sound like he's going to get dealt by Vegas. What could happen is maybe something similar to what the Jets did with Mike Tannenbaum in 2009. Remember, they added Braylon Edwards. They started 3-0 that year, and he was a huge part of that offense. They
Hmm.
needed someone next to Jericho Cotchery. It was like it was Jericho Cotchery, like Dustin Keller at tight end, and like Chauncey Stuckey was like the number two receiver. Remember him?
Oh my
So
God.
like love him, but they needed another playmaker. They traded for Braylon Edwards, and he was an awesome
Stucky.
Jet. So I think maybe that could be their path. Like we get a little closer to the deadline, they're in the mix. They're surprising. You need another weapon. Maybe they pull the trigger, but they're going to run the ball so much. I think their philosophy is we will scheme guys open. We have Garrett, and because we're going to be so run focused, we think that's still going to set up some play action. We'll get the one on one. We'll throw deep to Arian Smith, who was their fourth round pick, who's a speed guy from Georgia. I think that's how they're going to go about it. But I'd be lying to you if I said I'm not concerned because I am. I think, what happens if Garrett Wilson rolls his ankle and has to miss a month? All of a sudden, who's catching passes at that point? You don't feel good about it at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And so I know we're talking a lot about offense and defense. I feel like it's just going to be it's running the ball, but if you're going to be running the ball a lot, you got to play, really solid defense and locking them up. And like thankfully the Jets defense has been good. I mean, the years that you watch, especially the last 3, 4 years, the defense has been there. Like they've been holding guys. Like I think the average last season was like to 19 points. Like you can't ask anything more in today's NFL where, you're getting bombs left and right. Like the defense is doing its job, but at the end of the day, like you can't just have your defense out there for 48 minutes and say, "Hey guys, like, you know, do it."
Yeah, and
Or
look,
60, I should say it's 66. I'm thinking, I'm so this is how you know I'm such in basketball mode. 60 minutes, 15-minute course. I'm going crazy.
yeah, I feel you, man. Don't worry. But as far as the defense, to your point, like statistically, it looked probably better than it actually was last year. How many games did the Jets blow in the fourth quarter where the defense could have made a stop and they allowed Anthony Richardson to torch them late and go down the field and score?
Hmm.
They allowed Jacoby Brissett in that Patriot game up by you to go down the field and score. Like the defense, they were a mess after they fired Robert Saleh last year. I don't care if yards allowed, they were like third in the league. Like when it mattered, they couldn't get a stop. They led the NFL in blown fourth quarter leads. They were the most penalized team in the league on defense. So they're going to be more disciplined. I think Glenn's going to get that unit back to what it's been. Sauce, I think, is due for a bounce back year to his standards. I think he'll be a first team All Pro again. Like we saw, him have a down year last year. But you know what? If we can't trust Aaron Glenn, a former All Pro corner in his heyday, on his evaluation on Sauce, like what can we trust him on, right? So I think Sauce will be excellent. I think Quincy in a contract year is going to be awesome at linebacker next to,
Hmm.
Jamie Sherwood, who was a nice surprise. Getting Jermaine Johnson back is huge.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you need him. You got Will McDonald in year three. He added some strength, added some weight. I'm excited to see him. Like, obviously, you got Quinnen. I think the Harrison Phillips trade they made with the Vikings to get a big run stuffer next to Quinnen is a really smart move. Like, the defense, I think, is going to be a top five, top 10 unit, health withstanding in the league. The depth is not great. So if they get some injuries, that's when you get worried. But there's talent there. If the defense bounces back and some of the things we talked about with the offense break their way, this team has enough talent to be competitive. They'll be in the hunt on that graphic that we're talking about. Like, I don't think that's crazy. There's talk about the Jets being like this awful, worst team in the league. I,
Let
find me
them let them talk that way, Jake. I'm
right.
telling you, let them talk that way
It's
because
better.
I'd rather like I said,
There's
we're
talent here.
there's
100%.
talent. I don't want expectations. This team cannot perform under expectations. I want zero expectations. I want the most doubt against this team because that's where it's like, all right, man.
Move in silence. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
move inside. There you go. Like a G and lasagna, right?
That's
So
right.
let's do that. But hey, I'm looking forward to this season, man. I actually like I I'm looking forward to this season than previous seasons because the lack of expectations. And I'm like, all right, I'm curious to see what we can do because I feel like when there is that adversity, where there is that like you have no idea what a team is, that's where they can punch you in the mouth and shut you up. So I'm looking forward to this season and seeing what the Jets do. Jake, as always, I appreciate talking to you, my guy. Appreciate you for coming through as always. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. And if you got any work up and coming, we should be on the lookout for.
I appreciate it, Alex. Always an honor to join you. I look forward to this every year when we talk Jets and talk about the Knicks and everything going on. Best place to find me is just on social media at Jake Asman. You'll hear me every Sunday with Mike Tannenbaum from 8 to noon on ESPN New York. That's 880. We're the home of the Knicks, so Knicks fans know exactly where ESPN New York already is. Download the ESPN New York app. And if you're a Jet fan or a New York sports fan, I do a show every day on YouTube covering everything. So just at Jake Asman on YouTube, and you could tune in. Alex has been on before, so we definitely got to get you on, hopefully after a couple wins, so we're feeling a lot better about our Jets.
I'll join you. It doesn't matter, man. Win or lose, I'm a ride or die with the Jets no matter what, man. It stings. I can be a little, comical pessimistic just because, hey, man, you got to get through the day as a Jets fan. But
how could you not, right? I mean, if you don't laugh, you cry. I mean, it's a torturous relationship. But once again, back to the Knicks. If the Knicks can turn it around with Dolan, the Jets can turn it around with Woody, 100%. Assuming Glenn and Darren Muji, the new GM, are the right people he hired. That's the key. I mean, Dolan stayed out of the way, let Leon and Thibs do their thing, and now the Knicks are a championship contender. You hope as a Jet fan they got the right people, and then eventually it will turn around.
Absolutely. That's all it comes down to, man. Woody, stay away, man. Stay off the sticks, all right? Let the GM do their jobs, man. Let them do their jobs. It's all good. Jake, appreciate you coming through, my man. KFTV, Knicks Nation, Jets Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another KFTV show. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. All right, make sure to go check out Jake at the Jake Asman Show. Go make sure to catch him on ESPN New York. He does a phenomenal job covering the Jets. Make sure to tap in. He'll get you through the season, man. Even when I'm down, I'm out. Just go tune into Jake, and I just, I get right back into it. Somehow he brings me back on the wagon. All right, he does it every single time. So make sure to go check him out. And look, stay tuned for KFTV content. We're covering the teams. We got conversations all the time talking about the Knicks. CP's doing the damn thing. We're going to be start doing, season previews, stuff like that. Knicks preseason, man, is coming. We're only a month away. So, we got to talk about expectations for this team. So make sure to stay locked in. All right, everyone. We'll catch you later. We out.